Today we're going to go back to basics. We're going to be talking about how the trade system works. All in all, the trade system is not a singular system. It is multiple subsystems stacked on top of each other that all have their own little interactions and little screens to work with. So what do we have here? Well, we've got the Galactic Market, we got the internal trade system, we got direct trading, and we've got Enclave Trading. Now, all four of those have their own little quirks, and we're going to go walk through of those. Now, I've got this game open right now. We're going to first talk about the Galactic Market. Now, the Galactic Market by itself is relatively straightforward. If we go up here to, say, any of our resources, we can click on one of these and we are on the market screen. Now, at the start of the game, you will only have your internal market. Once enough empires have been discovered, there will be a push to create a galactic market so more resources become available. By itself, this is incredibly useful, especially at the start of the game when you have a certain amount of consumer goods and they will grow over time, but you don't really need them right now. So instead, you just sell them off for energy so you can get more leaders up and running, especially also for alloys, because then you can get more science ships up and running, which means you can get more anomalies, which means you can get more bonuses. But yeah, this is also a place where you can buy strategic resources once you get access to them. For instance, right now, because we are playing as lithoids, we've got access to exotic gases and rare crystals. Later on, of course, you can get items such as dark matter, etc. Now, what does this all mean? Well, it means that you have got a good way to balance your economy. In this particular case, we do not have a lot of energy, but we've got a reasonable amount of alloys. This means that we can balance our economy by selling off one thing for another. You don't always need to run a positive on all your resources. It's nice to have, sure, and especially with consumer goods, which is a pretty large requirement for a lot of your pop jobs, but you don't always need to go in the plus, and you will need a lot of consumer good factories in order to get a lot of them. The consumer goods in general can be a bit of a pain in the proverbial ass. Now, let's say, for instance, we want to buy some consumer goods. For every single unit of consumer goods we buy, in this case 50, the price will go up. But it also means that the sell price will go up. This means that for every single time we manipulate the economy, everything changes. And once we get to the Galactic Market, all players will automatically interact with this particular part of the game and move up and down the prices. Now, what we can also do is we can set a automatic trade where we can buy or sell any particular resource that we want. Let's say, for instance, I want consumer goods. Okay, cool. I want some consumer goods. I want 5 a month, and I just want to have the max buy price for it, which is 1.48. Now, what does that even mean? Well, let's say that we add that here, we unpause the game, and our economy should be hitting the crapper very soon once we hit the end of the month. There it is, minus 14 all of a sudden, because we are buying those resources there, which is a combination of these calculations. But what we also can do here is we can say sell some of our other income. So we go to, say, our alloys here, and we want to sell 5 a month. How much are alloys right now? Well, alloys sell for 3, and the consumer goods sell for 148, but they also have a lower buy value. This means that we can actually run a profit here. So we run this automatic trade here, we speed things up. Once the month ticks over, we will see our result and what the improvement is on our economy. Now, of course, this will all be detracted from our economy and also being added wherever necessary. Of course, we can always remove these and leave it at that. It's a very good way of playing to have a massive food excess and just sell them on the market as a monthly trade item, or any particular resources that you are focusing on. Alloys in particular, when you have an ecumenopolis, can be very, very useful. Now, lithoids, they've got bonuses to minerals. They can do stuff with that there as well. But yeah, food is a good way of getting a large amounts of money using the market within the game. That basically is the market itself. So let's move on to something that is a little bit more streamlined. Let's take a look at our internal trade system. Now, I've set up this little empire over here. It's called Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, because of course it is. And it has this little thing over here. This is trade value. Trade value is an abstract representation of trade being generated within a system. Now, in this particular case, it's completely natural. It's being generated by, I want to say, this here planet, but it can also be generated by any sort of habitat planet. So for instance, the rock right now is generating 10.77 trade value. Where is it coming from? Well, it is most likely coming from our city districts and the population there. Yeah, there we go. So these guys are actually generating trade value because they are clerks and they have those jobs. Now, there's several ways that you can generate more trade value through buildings, etc. But that's not important right now. The real importance is, how do you deal with the trade value? Well, the trade value gets added through your policies. So we can go to a trade policy here, and trade value can be used to either buy energy, where every single unit of trade value earns you 1 energy, consumer benefits, which will give you half the trade value, but 0.25 consumer goods. So if you're running a consumer goods deficient economy, this may be a good option. Or the marketplace of ideas, which lowers, it's the same value, but it gives you unity instead. Now, that unity one there for the marketplace of ideas can be extremely powerful if you're running a empire with a large amount of trade value. A very tall empire, a mega corporation, something that has a ecumenopolis full of these jobs that generate trade value can be exceptionally powerful in order to get through these traditions, but also getting extremely large amounts of money or consumer goods, which then in turn can be sold on the market. Please be aware there is a market fee of 30 by base, but you can lower that down to by 10 or even to 10 through technologies, as well as owning the Galactic Market station. But that's a whole different discussion. Anyway, how is this stuff all collected? Well, as you can see right now, it is in a piece of space, but it's not being collected. Why is it not being collected? Well, it's because we do not have a trade hub. The trade hub building gives you a collection range. So if we build, for instance, this trade up here, let's speed up the let's speed things up a little bit here. You can see that the trade value is no longer represented on the map. This is because we've built a trade hub, and the trade hub obviously collects within a range. However, there is a little bit more creativity there because you can do a lot more things with that range collection rate. Because gateways will be part of said collection range. So I'll give you an example. So I've got a trade hub in this particular system, and this is currently collecting the resources within said system. However, there is more trade value up here in the Arise system. It's currently being generated, most likely by this planet over here. Yeah, it's a gas giant. So what do we do in order to collect that without building a station? Well, let's do the following. Let's quickly select a construction ship, and let's build ourselves a gateway in the system. So we're just going to quickly build that bad boy up there. There it is. Gateway is now online. And we're going to do the same thing over here as well, where we're going to build a gateway in this particular system, just to make sure that we illustrate our point nicely. So there you go, the gateway is now online. As you can see, very soon that trade value is now being collected through the gateway itself. Now, this is very much a late game strategy. So what you, for instance, can do is you can max out your citadel and increase your trade range to the max, which means that you will have 6 trade range. By strategically placing gateways throughout your empires, you will be able to make sure that you can collect everything through those gateways. But there is another problem, and that is pirates. What are pirates, you say, ASpec? Well, those are guys on the high seas with eye patches, and they're after your booty. They're also after your trade value because, well, let's click on the trade value window here. As you can see, there is this here trade route. This is resources that is being funneled to our capital world, in this particular case, the Ball. Now, if there was a system in between here, say like Tau Ceti, and all of our trade value was being routed through there, we can actually illustrate this fairly easily. Give me a second here. So we can, for instance, turn Tau Ceti into a station. we can go to the trade map mode, click on the station, and reroute it through this here system. Or at least we should be able to. Okay, not right now. Yeah, there we go. So right now this trade value is being run through the ball into Sirius. Now let's say that you've run your trade value through this system over here back into Sirius, and obviously that could potentially be a problem. And there's pirates popping up in the intermediate system. Now what do we do here? We click on, we get out of this mode here, go to the system, and build the following. We build ourselves some hangar bays. What do hangar bays do? They increase trade protection within range. And again, this trade protection will also go through gateways. Now gateways will then mean that they can spread all that trade protection throughout your empire, basically squashing any sort of piracy within. Gateways are incredibly powerful for internal defense when it comes to your trade value. Do not underestimate them. Put them in strategic locations, put a trade base on top of it. On the other side, build yourself a base with nothing but these here hangar bays. Your entire empire will be protected from pirates throughout. Very powerful, very useful, and you will be able to get your trade value home and turn them into whatever you like. So sooner or later, you'll find yourself in a gigantic war versus some alien menace, and you need to figure out how the hell do you get out of this situation, because you're not generating enough alloys, and there is really no way of getting out of this. However, you do happen to have a giant pile of strategic resources, more specifically, dark matter. So what can we do with all these resources? Well, we can say, hey there, aliens next door. I would like to offer you a trade deal. I would like to buy your alloys wherever possible, and maybe trade them directly for some of my strategic resources, which is exactly what we're going to be doing here. As, yeah, 100 dark matter for a lot of alloys is definitely something to consider, especially if you need to crank out a large fleet quickly. Now, right now, for 859 alloys, let's see how far we can go here. About 30,000 alloys. That's a very reasonable amount. It's actually more that we can hold in our holds, which is unfortunate. So we need to lower this down to, say, 15,000 alloys. But 15,000 alloys by itself is a rather extreme amount already. So what we can do here is we can talk to any alien and ask them for any resource. And as long as we've got rare resources, motes, exotic gases, rare crystals, Zro, or in this particular case, dark matter, we can trade almost whatever we want with them as long as we're on a good standing and we've got any sort of ability of being political on the galactic scene. And there we go. For 381 dark matter, we just got 14,400 alloys. That is a rather significant amount. And it's something that a lot of players probably oversee because it's not really straightforward that you can trade all this stuff with the aliens. Say, let's say here, the... yeah, these guys. Let's do a trade deal with them. Hi, I would like some more alloys from you too if you have them. And they do. We can, for instance, trade some rare crystals and just do it that way. For 100 rare crystals, they will give us, well, let's take a look here. A ton of alloys. We can probably lower this amount. 80 to 60, that's a relatively good deal. Now the thing here is that you always want to keep an eye on the galactic economy and make sure that everything is going well. It's also very important that you always overproduce your strategic resources if you're not a fanatic purifier or a total war species. Of course, unless you have the Colossus. It means that you have a lot of flexibility on the market and you can basically get any resource you want. In particular, the dark matter is incredibly useful and you can get it relatively early on without getting any technology. And this is through the dimensional portal event where one of the outcomes is getting dark matter. Quite a lot of it actually, which means that you have a lot of flexibility on the galactic political field in order to trade the resources that you need in order to build those gateway networks that we talked about earlier, or gigantic fleets, etc., etc. There's quite a lot of flexibility when it comes to trading, but this is not everything yet. This is probably the most powerful trade system, or at least part of the trade system. But there's one more. Let's jump over to those enclaves, shall we? Finally, there's Enclave Trading. Now, Enclave Trading is a feature that was introduced in Leviathans. You need to own Leviathans in order to do this. It's very straightforward. All you need to do is find yourself a trader. Enclave. Let's quickly jump into our context menu and jump to the Mutagen Merchant Guild. Now, in the past, what would happen is you could get certain bonuses from these guys. That no longer applies. Instead, you can buy rare resources or strategic resources per month from these guys. Like, say, one rare crystal for 10 energy a month, and that goes all the way up to 5 for 50. Now what you want to do here is either go with them or take a look at the market and actually have a look at whether or not this is a good idea. So right now we can buy one crystal for 13, whereas here it is 10, and that's usually a good idea. So let's say that we have 50, yeah, we do. We want to have 5 crystals, and that will now automatically be added to our rare resources tally. And that right there is pretty good. Now the other ones are here as well. It's also for gases and motes too, which is rather useful, and it kind of wraps things up when it comes to the trading system within the game. This has been a relatively high-level overview of how trading works within Stellaris. All the systems are there. The Galactic Market, the trade value system, the direct trading with other empires, and of course the enclaves. If you feel that I've missed something, feel free to drop it in below. Yes, I am aware that there's dimensional portal trading through the alternate universe. It doesn't really do anything, I'm afraid, so it's not really part of this discussion. But in the meantime, we're going to go and wrap it up here. I hope you learned something today, and until next time, take good care of yourselves, and as always, the spice must flow.